Good morning, afternoon. I'm not sure if it's 12 yet. My name is Lynn Davenport, and I'm from Dallas. I'm a public school parent, and my kids went through Richardson ISD. I'm here to speak against this bill because the elephant in the room is technology, and I want you to understand that the Commissioner of Education, Mike Morath, is not an educator. He's actually a software entrepreneur, and since he's been in this position since 2016, he's been pushing technology as the solution to the problems in education, and I would argue that those are not solutions. Okay, and I want to talk about open education resources, which is mentioned about 50 times in the bill. So that's that's what they want. That's what he wants. And he wants to push this Amplify technology. So it is a technology bill. And if you look at the Department of Education, it talks about open education resources and what they want. And what they explicitly say is they're using equity as the means to push the open education resources. I call it fakequity because if you look at what children really need, what would be more equitable is to give them teachers, great teachers who are trained and hired with experience. And if they don't have experience, train them, and then use the money that you, instead of spending on the technology, use the money to pay those teachers to entice them to come back and give them supports, not more technology. If you look at the Department of Education definition of OER, it is to shift the resources from textbooks to digital learning. That is not a solution, okay? I also think that it's important for us to look at the language in the bill about shifting power to the appointed commissioner. We need more power returned to the State Board of Education and then to the local districts, not the Commissioner of Education. This has been a power grab for a number of years, incrementally giving him year over year, session over session, a little more power, a little more power, a little more power, okay? I also want to point out that he has been steering contracts through the Texas Education Agency. So I would argue that we need an audit of the TEA. Look at the state auditor's report from 2018 where he steered a data mining contract to SpedX and Tembo. Look at how the Amplify deal went down. This is a crony deal. Somehow, look at all the people in the room who are lobbyists and public-private partnerships and those who are championing this bill. Why do they want this bill? This is a major money and data grab. They're harvesting data through the Texas Education Agency, and no one's watching it. No one. Except for a handful of parents in Dallas area. Okay, so also I want to focus on the solutions which I mentioned: pay the teachers, return to a classical curriculum, a classical model with textbooks, not technology. These are real-time experiments happening on children. If you look at the data from Temple, in which we have people testifying on this, you can't see marked improvement. So why are we doing this? Why are we even talking about spending this kind of money on an experiment on children in real time? In order to shrink the achievement gap, it's not going to be technology. Thank you. I'll take questions if you have any.
Any questions for Ms. Davenport?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, Representative Buckley.
Just where it specifically in the bill basically references the purchasing of technology. I mean, when I think of technology, I think of iPads and Chromebooks and things like that. So where is that in the bill?
Well, it talks about data-based, evidence-based. They're going to draw that data from the technology. Because Amplify is a technology. It's technology.
Well,
it's a software program. They steered a $50 billion contract to Amplify during the pandemic under emergency powers. Yeah. So it is technology. If you weren't explained that, then I apologize for you not knowing that. But you know, whatever they told you, it's not textbooks. It's technology.
Yeah. Now, is accessing curriculum or instructional materials online and printing them out and putting in a booklet, is that technology?
Well.
Is that?
No, but look, that's not how it works. So we're one-to-one devices exactly in our districts. Well, why would you want to print? Then go back to textbooks if you're printing a bunch of materials from online.
This bill allows for that. Textbooks will be evaluated the same way that open educational resources will be evaluated. They'll be vetted by the state board, by elected officials. It's the same thing. A school district can actually write their own curriculum and have it vetted by the state board. and then receive compensation for that if that's the curriculum that they want to use in their schools.
But your previous testimony from the districts, they were talking about incentives. So what they do is they dangle the money carrot and the districts will grab. They will always do what the commissioner dangles. That's how it works in public ed.
So you mentioned teacher training. If I told you the $40 per student was for training teachers so that they can utilize the instructional materials in a way that would be meaningful to improve student achievement, is that?
I would be all for training teachers to return to the way that you and I learned, which actually worked. That's evidence-based. Go back to how we used to teach kids to read. We actually did a good job of it.
Like in Temple, where they use structured literacy because of the materials that you now say are technology, where they moved away from cueing strategies, where they moved to
balanced literacy, yeah.
Yeah, the curriculum that could be accessed by a district here would basically make sure it covers all the standards. It would make sure that that the strategies that are used are evidence-based to match the science of reading. And
wait, there's no science of reading. That is actually used as a tool to bring in more technology. They're using the reading wars, which all the issues we have in reading have been exacerbated by all the technology that's been piloted. You can go look at iStation, which was piloted after No Child Left Behind. That came in 2001, signed in 2002, 2003. We did a pilot. Houston, Dallas, Terrell, Fort Worth ISD, they all piloted iStation, which is reading response to intervention curriculum. And how are we doing in reading statewide? In my district, more than half the kids don't read on grade level. I'm saying we need to, instead of spending all this money on technology, we did $10 million in refreshing iPads in Richardson ISD, where more than half of the kids don't read on grade level.
This bill has nothing to do with iPads.
How are they going to do the Amplify curriculum? On paper?
Yes.
A device.
I've seen them do it on paper.
Well, then you've been snowed. That's not what Morath wants to do. He wants technology devices. He comes to you and he says whatever he thinks you want to hear, and then he goes to Dutton and says what you want to hear, and then he goes to Tallarico and says what he wants to hear. Okay. That's what we're dealing with here.
That's okay. Okay.
I just want the kids to be learning what they need to be learning. And instead we're chasing all of these shiny objects. It's not going to work. We need to return to time-tested ways of learning. And I want the legislature to get behind that. We could solve this in 3 weeks if we got on the same page on this. But instead, we got vendors. I mean, look at who's pushing this. The lobbyists pushing this. There's a whole coalition. I can't remember the name of it. But you got Texas 2036. They're all about data. You've got the Commit Partnership. They're in the room. What can we do? Return to textbooks. Pay the teachers with the money saved on technology. Can we do that?
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Madam
Any
Chair.
questions? Representative Dutton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me see if I understand your testimony.
Yes.
You're a teacher, is that what
No.
you said? You're not a
Just
teacher?
a parent.
You're just a parent? Mm-hmm. And let me start with, you basically calling Morath a liar.
I'm saying he's duplicitous. So he'll say what...
Is that not being a liar?
I
mean, I don't want to...
I'm saying he'll say what... Yeah. I mean, he'll say one thing to parents. He'll say another thing to teachers and another thing to legislators. And I study what he's doing. I watch what he does.
You do?
Not so much what he says.
You do. And do you have any children in the school system?
I have 3 children that went through Richardson ISD. Yes, my last just graduated in this last year.
Okay. And were they reading on grade level?
Yes.
Okay. But you said in your district, you have less than 50%.
More than half do not read on grade level. We have high poverty, high needs, a lot of Title I schools, yes.
And you don't see the need for this bill then, do I?
Right. So I think that it's taking a legitimate problem. We do have learning loss, but that learning loss was happening before the pandemic. So it takes a legitimate problem and gives a counterfeit solution. So like in my district, when we shifted away from academics into all these digital devices, and when we shifted away from academics to more social and emotional learning, that's when we saw the continuous nosedive in our performance, and also when we piloted iStation.
And so all these devices, parents buy them, right?
The school district provides it through bond debt and other means.
Yeah, and so you recognize there's a problem, and we as policymakers have to decide how to fix it.
Sure.
Do you have any suggestions about how to fix it?
Yeah, so I think that we need to get the devices out. We actually have a bill, drawing a blank on the name, but there is, the number. There are two bills that are to get rid of the technology in the schools, and we could use the money to actually pay the teachers and then bring in the time-tested curriculum that would actually get them reading on grade level and math that's age appropriate.
Your solution is to take technology out of it.
Yeah, so like my youngest, who when he was in third grade, we pulled him out of the public school for 2 years to remediate him because everything was focused on the STAR test. And when we did that, I sent him to a no-tech private school for 2 years, had him remediated, 10, 11 kids in the classroom, and then he went back to the public school. So if you look at their curriculum, it's a 50-year-old curriculum. It doesn't change every 2 years from some new strategy, new progressive or new experimental strategy, and it works. And they don't have to change it every year and keep retraining, continuous improvement with the teachers. They just stick with the time-tested model, and then they feed into the public schools in junior high and high school, and then they do very well. They go to the top of the class. So I would argue, like with Houston ISD, I think that taking over the district is not going to do a darn bit of good. Look at other states where they're taking over the districts through corporate control. Doesn't move the needle. What we need to do is return to the time-tested models. I know that's a big ask, but we could do it.
Well, I disagree with you first about Morath. I think he's been the kind of commissioner that we needed in the state.
Well, his spending's gone up 37% since he's been in the appointed position since 2016, and hires have gone up 31%, but academic performance declined. So by all accounts, he would be fired if he was in a corporation.
Well,
for his performance.
That's your opinion, and everybody's.
It's not an opinion. That's just the facts. He's data-driven, so am I.
About he ought to be fired. That's your opinion.
Well, if you're not moving the needle after 6 years, yeah, I'd say he needs to go.
Well, this bill, you don't think will help that?
No, because we've already seen what Amplify has done. It's already been rolled out in some of the districts, and it hasn't moved the needle. I can promise you, I'll come here in 5 years or 2 years or 1 year and be like, hey, remember when I told you that Amplify wasn't going to work?
So
how did you learn to read?
Your statement to this committee is that you disagree with everything in the bill, but you recognize that there's a problem. And your solution,
sure,
go back to some time in the past when you think it did work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Representative Hinojosa.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge that this committee did identify with the commissioner here in our first meeting a desire to get the littles off the computers. And so we heard recently from the commissioner, I think that it was under third grade and under, it's harder for kids to focus when they're on, and concentration is harder when they're on the computer. So I do think that there is a shared acknowledgement that computers may not always be the answer. And so I just want to say, I think I hear you at least on that issue. You raised an interesting point that I would like to explore with the bill author and the agency, and that's about this data mining piece. That this is an issue that in the legislature we've tuned into this session. We have several other pieces of legislation we're considering on data mining, protecting people's right to privacy, and we know that for kids it's that much more important. And I don't know what the current state of the law is.
No teeth. There's a lot of there are laws, FERPA laws, and SIPA and all those, but there's no teeth. And so the commissioner was able to, they're harvesting. I know that Texas has mined more student data than any other state, and education is the most data mineable industry. So Texas is a huge target, and that's why Texas 2036 is so deeply involved. So they want access to the data, and the earlier they can get that, then they can track the kids womb to tomb from pre-K through the workforce and do these longitudinal systems. You also will notice the commissioner uses the term interoperability. They really want to be able to connect all of that data together. And that would be, like I said, womb to tomb. They call it pre-K to gray. You'll hear the Commit Partnership talk about that. It's all about accessing children. The earlier they can do that, and if they can get more teachers on the devices and students on the devices, then you can reduce everybody to data points. And they talk about outcomes. I say we should focus more on inputs, because to sound gimmicky, but really it's all about their incomes. There are so many people that are feeding off the education system. It's not going to the teachers and to the students. It's really going to the public-private partnerships, the lobbyists, the technology companies, the vendors. That's
well. So and I hear you, and we need to be always aware and on the alert for ensuring that the solutions to our problems are not vendor driven. I hear you with that. I think, though, on the data mining piece, I would like to meet with the agency and figure out what protections are there for parents.
That would be great.
That's an important thing to consider as we move forward.
Yeah, because they've taken 16 million student academic records, and they're using machine learning, AI, and predictive analytics. And I found that through a DataKind article talking about the Commit Partnership, the TEA, and Microsoft Azure, and forget the other one, but yeah, they're doing it, but no one's watching it. That's the problem. I mean, he has carte blanche because both parties cover for him, and we need somebody to call it out. We need an audit. Can we get that? Anybody else want the mic? I think I'll go.
Any
more questions?
Questions for Ms. Davenport? Hearing none, we'll go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
The chair calls Mary Lowe. Ms. Lowe, the record show that you are testifying for yourself and you are against the bill.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So while she's handing that out to you, I'm just giving you this because there's a QR. Sorry, thank you. While she's handing this out, I just want you to know, I don't typically give this to you, but I want you to have access. If you use this QR code, there's a video that is on this landing page, and it's a video of the Deputy Commissioner of Technology for the Texas Education Agency, where she testifies and she explains that the internet that our children are on is not secure and that they haven't done anything to address the security for 4 years. So just because of the testimony that we just heard, I think it's really critical that you understand the sincere depth of our resistance for the children at this point in time, for the state in any way, shape, or form to expand any form of digital, to spend any money on any curriculum that's digital based. Okay, so I'm not going to go over this page because I don't believe people like to be read to. I've given you a very thorough analysis of this bill from how we see it. I also am the co-founder of an organization that represents parents across the state of Texas. We advocate for parents and teachers, and we are not paid. We volunteer. And one of the things that I would say is that this bill is nothing but digital Common Core, which we outlawed in the state of Texas. I would say that one of the things that has happened today that I've seen that's really been heartbreaking, because I saw it happen from this dais, is a manner and a tone which we see locally, and it prevents parents from feeling comfortable to go to their boards, regardless of what ideology or what the concept is. They feel uncomfortable to go to their schools or to go to their boards. They're afraid of how they're going to be treated, and they're oppressed, and in many cases they're trespassed if what they are asking for is against what the body that they're talking to is what they're asking for. And this happens when they want to access curriculum. And the hiding of the curriculum began with the onslaught of digital technology. The schools and tell the parents that it's copyrighted and that they cannot see it. And when they are allowed to see it, there are people standing over them, guarding them so that they cannot see it. And when I was growing up, if my mother wanted a copy of the textbook, she could go and bring it home, and she could work with me out of that textbook. And I'm going to tell you that one of the things that I see where this bill does not help anybody and the movement is not helping anybody, it's the lower socioeconomic children. We're not educating those kids. The STAR test, one of the reasons we moved away from the Iowa was because it had a socioeconomic alignment to it. And the STAR test, the results reveal we're not educating those lower socioeconomics. And I would agree with Ms. Davenport in her testimony. Putting that low socioeconomic in front of a computer, it exacerbates what they're experiencing many times. They're single-parent families, not just low socioeconomic. It's the lack of the family's ability to invest in the child. And I don't see digital curriculum helping that. It lacks a tactile interaction when they're on a device.
To wrap it up.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm against this bill because it is an oxymoron. It does not give more power. You take one step forward and then 5 steps back. This bill ultimately gives all the power to the Texas Education Agency, an unelected body that by all means in every division of the Texas Education Agency is failing. Amplify subverted the parents' rights, and we spent over 6 weeks going through it. It was an avenue for indecent material to enter into the school districts, and any digital platform can change even after a parent has viewed it. I can look at it, and 5 days later it can have something else in it put before the student. I am totally against this. There is nothing about this bill, and I do honor and respect the heavy burden that you all have and the deep desire to find a solution, but I have to say this is not the correct avenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.